Mr. Bryan, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please, sir?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the Planning and Zoning Board. Local planning agency is an advisory board which makes recommendations to the county commissioners who will make the final decision on these items. Item H3 is an LPA item. Items on today's agenda will be heard by the county commission on March 2nd. When a motion ends in any kind of split vote, a roll call vote may be taken to ensure accuracy. As a reminder, each member who makes a motion or a second needs to turn their microphone on so that your voice is on the record. Speakers for the public comment on agenda items will be given 5 minutes. At this time, if any board member has had any ex parte communication regarding any application, please disclose so now. All right, we need an approval for the P&Z minutes from January 9th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Bruce, a second by Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Well, first off, I'd like to welcome our new board member here, Debbie Thomas. Thanks for being.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to it.
Be careful what you say. All right. Item H1, please.
Good afternoon, Board. The first item is Lori Ann Halbert requests a change of zoning classification from RU 113 to RU 215. The application number is 22Z00066 for tax account number 2716292, and that's located in District 5.
Okay, and is the applicant here?
Yes, sir.
And if you could, sir, would you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Jason Steele, and I live at 1465 South Harbor City Boulevard in Melbourne, Florida.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do here.
Thank you very much. Lori bought the lot on 124 East Coral Way some 2.5 years ago. And when she did, we did our normal due diligence. We looked at what the zoning was. Currently, it was RU 113, and then looked at the future land use plan, which called for RU 215. The lot was completely filled with Australian pines, so we really couldn't get a good look at it, and didn't do a whole lot of due diligence, and we had to move quickly to close the lot. But once we did, we bulldozed all of the Australian pines, which cost about $15,000, and Lori thought maybe she would like to build a house there. Well, we really didn't drill down very much about the neighborhood, because in the neighborhood, which has been dormant for probably 10 or 15 years, there's been nothing more than multifamily zoning that's been there. There's a few lots that are RU 113, but the future land use plan calls for RU 215. Once we got the lot bulldozed and cleaned off, lo and behold, to the west of the lot was a completely dilapidated, rat-infested mess that made up her mind immediately that she was not going to, in fact, build a house there. There was code violation after code violation, and it was also in a foreclosure lawsuit that went on for almost 5 years. So after taking a look at the neighborhood and drilling down into the neighborhood, we decided that we thought maybe we should do some multifamily there, because the future land use plan called for RU 215. Now, one of the issues there is that there's no sewer down Coral Way. As a matter of fact, there's no sewer all the way to the Indian River. Hundreds and hundreds of homes are leaking sewer into the Indian River Lagoon because they are all on septic tanks. So one of the things that I think is important to note is environmentally speaking, you don't need any more single-family homes with septic tanks there. That you ultimately need to put a sewer line to run down Coral Way and hopefully get people in the neighborhoods to, in fact, hook into the sewer line so that we have not excess effluent running into the Indian River Lagoon. Sewer is about 600 feet to the east, so prior to the time that we would do anything with that, obviously would need to hook up to the sewer position. So today we asked for an RU-215. I think if you look at the lot across the street, it's RU-215. Most of the lots to the east are RU-210. There's a variety, there's 3 or 4 lots that are RU-113, but nothing has been done in the neighborhood for over 10 years, and it's sitting there dormant. So we hope that you go along with our request today, and if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to ask, I'll be more than happy to answer the questions for you.
All right, hearing that, I bring it back to the board. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I've got a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Robert.
So you went into purchasing it eyes wide open with no sanitary.
Pardon me?
You went into purchasing the property 2.5 years ago knowing that there was no public sanitary.
Yes, sir, I did. We did, absolutely.
Okay. And
We knew we could get a septic tank if we needed to, but
correct.
for up to 4 units. So,
Correct.
yes, sir, we did that due diligence.
Okay. I have a problem personally because I'm 30 years as a first responder, and I've had about 20 deployments, mainly in hurricanes. We just went through Hurricane Nicole. We just went through Hurricane Ian with evacuation criteria. And increasing a lot of density on barrier islands is contrary to the Florida Department of Emergency Management evacuation zones. So your level of service on A1A right now is D for normal use. When you start looking at how many hours does it take to evacuate from Cape Canaveral all the way down to South Melbourne over 3 bridges, you're going to get around 50 hours. So I know that NOAA personally cannot pinpoint an accurate hurricane impact in under 50 hours. So how would you address the increased density of all of these areas with the evacuation potential?
I think if you look at the staff reports, Mr. Sullivan, you'll find that the concurrencies meets quite there. There's no problem with the transportation system there. There's no problems with another 12 units or 13 units going from A1A or down Coral Way. So
Well,
that's a point that I understand your opinion, and I think it's a valid opinion. However, I don't believe 12 or 13 units is going to do any harm for that neighborhood at all.
But all of those areas there can
Pardon me,
all,
sir?
the future concurrency says that all of them can go up. So it's not just the 0.16% increase on level of service, which is already at a D, which means it gets worse, it doesn't get better. So all of that has a concurrency issue. And the state actually is trying to limit barrier islands, whether it's in Pensacola or Jacksonville or down to the Keys. They're trying to limit increased densities. Then you also have your sewer impacts. I think South Melbourne has discharged, I think, 15,000 gallons into the St. Johns River, into the Indian River. So septic tank leakage isn't as much as 15,000 gallons.
I think we'd have a disagreement with that, sir, and I'm sure if you talk to any engineer, they'd tell you that septic tank usage is much worse than sewer pipes. So as much as I respect your opinion, sir, I completely disagree with it.
Well, do your opinion.
And the staff report also says that this is the future land use for this specific area, and what is the future land use for a specific area unless you abide by it? So I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Well, Mr. Robert, are you complete?
Yeah, I'm complete.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Are you going to build 2-story, 1-story? What's the plan of putting 8 units on this property?
The plan right now is probably a 2-story unit. The height limitation is 35 feet. I doubt that we'd do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the closest sanitary sewer line is 600 feet to the east.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Are you planning then in running a line down Coral Way at your own expense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how far are you taking it?
We're taking it to the property line, and we're talking to some of the other property owners along the way to see if they'll hook into it.
Okay, what about further to the west?
We can't take it any further to the west without the homeowner's approvals, but at some point in time, I'd like to talk to the county about specifically taking the sewer line and extending it and make it mandatory to cut in. At some point in time, we have to face the fact that septic tanks are the biggest problem on that beach. And until we get sewer that goes all the way across there and gets hooked in, we're going to have more pollutants, and the Indian River is going to be ruined more. So it's my intention to bring it down to our site once we get ready to build, and hopefully try to talk other people into hooking into the pipe. So, yes, sir, we've looked at it. We've talked to an engineer. The price is about $70,000 to bring the line down.
Did he check the invert level to make sure that you have the correct slope?
We have not gone to the final details of engineering, but we did talk to BSC Engineering, Mr. Scott Glovitz, and had him take a look at it, and he gave me an estimate.
Okay, that was to run the line, but I'm just saying, will it work, or do you need a lift station?
He thinks it will work, yes, sir.
Oh, okay, all right. You're asking for a RU 215, and I was looking around the area, and there aren't any 215s except
Directly
one
across the
adjacent-
street.
One across, just one.
Yes, sir.
Which doesn't have anything on it, I don't believe. Or it's got
No, there's
it's got some
building-
duplexes or
There's
something.
buildings there, yes, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the board?
One more question.
Yes,
Has
sir.
your engineer looked at the capacity of the south plant?
The capacity is adequate, yes, sir.
87%?
I don't
It's
know
at
the exact-
87%
I'm not an engineer,
capacity.
sir, so I don't know the exact percentage, so.
I am an engineer.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. But we haven't done the final engineering on it. We're just at the zoning point now. But I can tell you one thing, that neighborhood has been dormant for 10 years. It's rotting. It needs some help. So any kind of new growth, specifically with the new jobs coming into the area, you know, we can have a philosophical argument or disagreement in regards to whether or not we should put more units over on the beach. But I'm going to tell you right now, we got more jobs than we have places to live. So in my opinion, this is an adequate and good zoning request. But I do understand what you're saying, sir, and philosophically, there's some of those arguments that we're talking about that I agree with. But in this particular area, I think it's a good area for the zoning.
Yeah.
1 second, Mr. Steele. Anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Any other questions for the applicant or a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to recommend approval to county commissioners.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Ben, a second by Debbie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
One? Nay.
Okay, that motion passed.
Thank you. And Mr. Sullivan, thank you very much for your comments. I totally understand them. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item H2.
Yes, item H2, Brian and Dana Scholz, request change of zoning classification from AU to RR1, application 22Z00064, tax account number 2004785, located in District 1.
All right, thank you, sir. And
Thank you.
you representing the applicant?
I am. My name is Stuart Buchanan. I'm the agent for owner. My working address is P.O. Box 1545, Titusville, Florida 32781. This is a very straightforward request, and so I'm going to be very brief and then answer any questions that you have. If the chair and members of the board would take a look at the aerial in their packet, as I give my comments, it'll be real easy to follow along with that aerial. So the first thing I'd like to mention is the total acreage is 3.91 acres. It is not 4 acres, it's 3.91. We're requesting a change to RR1 rural residential that would allow 1 acre lots. In reality, because it's 3.9 acres, they're going to be 1.3 acre lots. In other words, there's no way to achieve 1 acre lots because they don't have 4 acres, 1.3. Under the consistency with the land use regulations, you'll see that this parcel has an existing future land use of Res 1. It has had Res 1 since 1989. It has been slated in your comprehensive plan, the Regional Planning Council, and the State Planning Agency for the past 34 years as Residential 1. Under the compatibility with the surrounding land uses, so one of the things that we prepare, I'm sorry, Bruce, did you hear that? I said we. One of the things that your staff prepares when they do these staff reports is they look at the surrounding properties, but they only look one property deep. So when you look at your aerial, you'll see that there's existing 1 acre lots, 2 of them, abutting across the street. You'll see there's another one abutting into the west. But now if you look farther down the street, you'll notice that there's a bunch of 1/4 acre lots beginning at the intersection. You'll see 1/4 acre lot, 1/4 acre lot, 1/4 acre lot. We obviously don't want that. Part of this rezoning, if it's approved today as RR1, puts a halt to, it'd make it very hard for 1/4 acre lots to go further into this neighborhood. And again, the staff, the way these reports are structured, they only look at the abutting parcels. But I would bring to your attention that if you go just down on the same block face at the end of that street, you'll see a bunch of 1/4 acre lots. On concurrency, you'll see that the roadway concurrency is at less than 25%. So you, on your level of service, you're good to go on capacity. The last thing that I would mention to you is on natural resources, because I always look at the natural resources, it talks about specimen trees. If you look at your aerial, there is a total of 5 trees on the entire parcel, and so it will be very easy for us to identify if any of those are specimen trees. There's only 5 trees on the entire parcel. Finally, so in summary, you've got 34 years it's been in the comprehensive plan as Res 1. We're creating 2 lots that are actually 1.3 acres each. They're not going to be 1 acre. You have no level of service issues. You've got 1 acre abutting and 1/4 acre down the street. I've only received 2 phone calls from local residents, no letters, no emails. I did receive 2 phone calls from 2 families in the area. After I explained to them what we were doing, they said they were no longer opposed. You can ask staff. Staff has received no emails, no letters. They got 1 phone call, which in his questions weren't about the rezoning. His questions were about what are you going to build there. And I've told staff that I will be happy to call them back and tell them exactly what we're doing, single-family houses. That's it. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Well, while he's still at the podium, we got any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
How are you going to be developing that back piece of the property?
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to have to go through the subdivision process with the staff to get this approved. In other words, it has to go through staff. Because of the lot size of 1.3 acres, it's not something that you can just go to the clerk of court and record. You know, it has to be 5 acres or greater.
Do you have a preliminary plan of how you're going to develop that? Like, I assume it's going to be a flag lot?
We do not. So we're not fond of flag lots, at least I'm not personally. So normally what happens if you ever have 2 lots on one drive, you do not make it a flag lot or any sort of burden on the public. You do it yourself. You make it a private drive. I will tell you that the property was purchased by the current owners in this configuration. They're not developers. It's a retired couple. They're not professional developers. And whoever did this, whoever broke it off the parent parcel, to me it seems pretty obvious that was their plan. Their plan was to run a private drive down the eastern edge. When I look at the layout, there's nothing else they could, there's no other way, nothing else they could have had in mind. But again, they purchased it as is. This is broken off from a much larger parent parcel.
Mr. Ron, are you good?
Let me see. Yes.
Yes, sir. Mr. John.
Are you planning, or is the owner planning on selling off the lots?
Yes, we're actually, they're going to work with a general contractor that lives in MIMS to develop single-family houses, whether he purchases them or they do it together. But absolutely, they've already contacted a local GC.
Okay. The existing house that's on the property, is that going to remain?
Yes, he built that for them. Well, he built it for the prior owner, so correct. Yes, sir.
So looking at the layout currently, with that house and the auxiliary building behind it,
The auxiliary building's got to go.
it got to go.
Yeah.
It would be, you're going to do a total of 3 homes on that full parcel?
Yeah, so it'd be 3 homes, each one on 1.3 acres.
Okay, but you don't know how that's going to be configured.
Now, I'm going to leave that up to the surveyor and the GC.
He's going to have some fun trying to make it work. So they're going to have to parcelitize that property into 3 pieces,
And it
right?
has to go through the county staff for approval.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that in order to sell it, you're going to have to do that, so everybody has their own piece of the land. Okay, and you don't know yet how access will be given to that furthest lot to the north?
No, I mean, again, I'm not a surveyor, but if I was going to do it, and I would absolutely run a private drive down the east property line. So it's a straight shot.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, if I can just throw in my 2 cents worth. So, like Mr. Buchanan was saying that 3 lots or more requires a subdivision review, and that way staff will review to make sure that, number one, the newly created lots will meet zoning, the existing house meets zoning, and the lots meet the minimum development standards for our R1 zoning. Each lot will have to have access to a county-maintained road, whether it's through a, through a flag stem, which is 25 feet, or other means. But each lot will have to have access to a county-maintained road.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other questions by the board? Mr. Buchanan, 1 second. Anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? All right. Sir, if you could come up and state your name and address, and if you could get as close as you can to the microphone there.
How's this? My name's Greg Perotti. I live at 3618 Orlando Avenue in regards to the dividing of the property to the left of mine, okay? I'm in disagreement with this. When I purchased here 10 years ago, it was based on 4 and 5 acre tracts. There are other areas of MIMS that have 1 acre lots if people are in need of that size property. But I purchased to be on a larger parcel of AU zoning with the adjoining property being AU zoning, okay? I also do not understand how they're going to place more homes on this property when there is 1 home in the center of the property. It doesn't make sense. It does not fit into the surrounding properties. I would also not like to have driveways running down the side of my property line to take away my privacy that I paid for. We all knew when we purchased these lots at 4 acres, this was the surroundings that we wanted, okay? So again, I'm in total disagreement with the dividing of the land, and thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak for or against this item? All right, Mr. Buchanan, if you could come back up. Any other questions from the board? If not, does anyone have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we recommend to the county commission to approve this project.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Got a motion by Ron, a second by Mr. Menaboo. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, item H3 and the LPA, and we can just take a vote on it from the board. See how everyone feels.
Let Trina read the, and I'll explain to the board.
Okay.
Item H3, Norman Leigh Sherman Jr. and Karen Denise Turowski request a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, 22S.18, to change the future land use designation from agricultural to Res 1. Application number is 22SS00014, associated with tax account number 2002089 in District 1.
Mr. Chair, and the rest of the board members, it's come to the staff's attention that this property has been split. The staff comments does not reflect that, so I would put it to you all, if you want to make a recommendation based on that information, or if you remand this application back for staff review so we can update the staff comments to recognize that change.
Everyone understand? So we can take a vote as a board that we either want to review it or we'll take it back, leave it with you for staff comments for later.
Mr. Chairman?
Motion for that?
Hold on, yeah, 1 second, John.
Do you know how it's been split? I mean, looks like you could have it split kind of north to south and.
Yes, the property was 4.4 acres. 1 acre of that has been split off, which is the northeastern portion of the property fronting Pine Needle. Northwestern, excuse me.
The northeastern corner of it?
Correction, northwestern.
Northwestern corner?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. John, you had a comment?
No, you need a motion to send it back to staff?
Yes.
Then I so move.
Well, can we, well, if we listen to the applicant, then we need to.
Yes, sir. You can listen to the applicant and get further information, and then based on that, you could either send it back to the board, send it back to
So then
staff.
after maybe discussing with them, we'll know if we have enough information to make a
Yes, sir.
decision or not. So is the applicant here? Okay, could y'all come up here to the podium and state your name and address for the record and a little bit about what you're wanting to do?
My name is Karen Turowski. Mailing address is 1979 Garwood Drive, Orlando. This is
Norman Leigh Sherman Jr., also address 1979 Garwood.
and we
Drive, Orlando.
co-own the property, which is 4791 Pine Needle Street.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do.
We purchased the property, it's 4.4 acres, and we've applied for a building permit, which is kind of how all this came about. We have a portable structure that we purchased, and we're turning it into a single-family home, and the property's already RRMH. We had just acquired a single-wide mobile home to store our furniture in, so we're really only using it for storage right now, as no water, power, anything hook up. But because it's there, we've got 2 living structures on a single structure zoning. Future land use is the agricultural, so in order to split that acre out, we had to go through this whole process. At some point, we probably will try and make that zonable, that mobile home, because we're retiring there and we might want to have a child live there or something. But our main purpose is to get this house built. And
with two
and
people, two
structures,
on the same property,
right?
so you had to separate
So
it.
we had to separate it, and
Okay.
so we tried to go through the right process. And I guess the building department required us to have a quit claim deed showing that the property had been separated.
Correct.
But I guess that was kind of the cart before the horse with the zoning process. So we're kind of in a catch-22. We had to do one to get it accomplished without having to have that storage trailer hauled away and then find some other place to put all of our stuff while we're in the process of building this house. And we're not trying to separate it to sell or anything like that. We still own both properties. We're hoping to get married now soon. We had to wait because of COVID and everything else. And we just want to have a nice little retirement
So you gotta change
piece
the
of
zoning
property.
to have the two structures.
Right, and to be able to
Land
get the
use.
house
I'm sorry,
built.
land use.
Yeah, to get the house built. And, we just plan it for us and,
We're just trying to proceed with the building permits and this
Okay.
getting held up.
All right, one second. Anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? That's really good news. So as far as the board, is everyone comfortable with what's going on, or does anyone need more information to make this?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we hear the application.
I had a motion before that. I did not receive this in my package, so I haven't seen it at all. That's why I made the motion to send it back to staff to have it corrected anyway.
Yeah, well, I brought them up because they're here.
No, I understand.
It's just like Bruce was saying, it's the land use is the only thing.
Yeah.
Zoning stays the same.
I just don't have the
everything.
information to vote on it.
There was no second, so I guess that motion dies.
Well, I was going to kick him to do it.
So, Robert, you made a motion to go ahead and hear it?
Correct.
Second.
Okay, we got a second by Debbie. So that means we're going to hear it, and then we're going to make a vote on it.
okay.
All right, and so does anyone have any questions for the applicant after hearing the story, or?
A motion for approval.
Second.
Got a motion by Bruce, a second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
That passed.
Thank you so much.
But we're just an advisory board to the county
understand.
commissioners, okay.
We understand that.
All right, I saw you were here, so hopefully we could get that handled for you today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
All right.
We just want to get our house.
Item H4, please.
Good afternoon. Item H4, Jerry W. Solomon and Violet Shirley Solomon, Revocable Trust. Request a change of zoning classification from BU1 to BU2, application number 22Z00065, tax account number 2102130, located in District 1.
Okay, are you Mr. Jerry?
I am not. I am Bart Spangler. I'm representing my mother, who's Violet Shirley Solomon.
Could you state your name and address, please, for the record?
My name is Bart Spangler. My address is 2068 Arnold Palmer Drive, Titusville, Florida, 32780.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do.
Yeah, so my mother's had this property for almost 30 years for a while. Been zoned BU1, and at the time that was a good classification for that property, but based on the fact that the north end of the county is growing at an exorbitant rate, and they're almost all zero lot properties, and usage of RV boat storage is almost non-existent. So the idea is to create an environment where there's going to be RV boat and automobile storage, and that's the objective of the request.
All right. Just one second, sir. Anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I've got one. Is that diagonally across from the Moose Lodge?
It's right across from the Sodfather, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, right. It's right in that footprint. Yeah. And there's BU2 property just to the north, about 1/8 of a mile. That's also on the same US 1 corridor, but they're not optimizing it. And just speaking on behalf of the communities, I mean, I'm an HOA president for our neighborhood too, and I'm one of the enforcers that doesn't allow this, boats, RV storage. Talking to general community in my area, I know there's a massive need for it, especially in the north end of the county. The closest you have is further south in US 1 corridor or always down on Highway 50 or 405. So the north end of the county really has it. I mean, there's 2 or 3 developments between the Indian River Reserve and Brooks Landing that has absolutely no area for boats. And what I'm concerned about is because I'm having to be the bad guy is, I'm literally getting to the point where people have nowhere to put cars, nowhere to put boats, RVs, and that is a real problem in the north end. So that's the proposal.
Mr. Chairman, would you be willing to add a BDP, binding development plan, to your property to restrict the BU2 uses to just this one of boat, RV, and storage?
Yeah, I don't plan to, the vision has never been to put a multi-storage type structure in. It was, quite frankly, this is the vision. I'll paint a little bit more picture. So in the area, there's virtually no area where they actually have covered storage. So the proposal is to build about 7,500 of enclosed cover storage for RV, nicer RVs, class vehicles. Even try to attempt to rerun shore power for that. And then the rest of it would be permeable soft surface, because I know it's sensitive to water drainage there, because especially in that area. So it'd be just a permeable soft pavement, storage, roof storage over one portion of the property with the ability to expand that. But I'm not intending to do anything else beyond that. So that's the idea.
Yeah, I'm just concerned there are some other BU2 uses that I don't think we would find acceptable up there.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I have no problem with that commitment.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I just interject? Well, if that's the direction that the board wants to take, is to include a BDP with this rezoning, what I would suggest is that you include BU1 uses.
Yes.
And only the RV and boat storage. That way it's not limited to one use.
Correct. That's exactly right.
That's a good point. Any other questions for the applicant? Mr. Robert, you're thinking about something.
And,
No, I mean, I think it's a good idea what Ron came up with.
Yeah.
That's his neck of the woods.
I know. Well,
Yeah.
there's
I
a lot of
move that we
opportunity
make
for
a
boats in the north
recommendation.
side.
I move that we recommend to the BOCC that we approve this with that BDP.
Thank you.
Second.
Does he need to state the BU1 zoning?
Yes,
With the BU
with a BDP that allows all BU1 uses and this one additional BU2 use of a boat, RV, and...
For RV and boat storage.
Right.
Okay, a motion by Ron.
I second.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, John. A second by John. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you. Nobody else on?
Yes, sir. You're good to go. Item H5.
Item H5 is Edita Realty, request a change of zoning classification from BU1 to RU210, application number 22Z00049, tax account numbers 2302548 and 2302549, located in District 1.
Is the applicant here?
Mr. Chair, just to update the board on the Port St. John recommendation. So the Port St. John recommended approval of the RU210, also to ask the applicant to change his request to RU17.
Okay.
They approved 210, but then they asked him to do, okay.
That is correct.
Sir, your name and address for the record.
Jim McKnight, 1675 South Fisk Boulevard, Rockledge, Florida. I'm representing Edita Realty on this proposal.
All right. And a little bit about what you're wanting to do.
Yes. Just to address some of the issues, well, I'll save those actually. The property in question is actually two lots. One of the lots has already been surveyed to deed 18/100ths of an acre to the other one, so that we'll have 0.018. So we'll have two lots, 2/10 of an acre each. That's why the RU210 was requested, because the intent is to build two duplexes, one on each lot, at approximately 1,300 square feet per side, or 2,600 square feet per building. I think you've been provided with a copy of the renderings and the actual architectural on the property. So the total property is 0.4 acres. The future land use designation is currently community commercial, and the property is currently zoned BU1 general commercial. It is bounded on the north by a new Dollar General commercial property and commercial on the west as well. There is single family on the, I guess that'd be the east and a little bit south of the property. The request was made for RU 210, which again would allow for 2 duplexes, 1 on each lot, to be constructed and act as a transitional buffer from the commercial now under construction to the north, and some of it may be completed, and the single family that exists to the south and the east. Removing the commercial from these 2 lots will be beneficial to the character of the area, and it would be consistent with the neighborhood. Duplexes have often been considered 1 and 2 family structures as being compatible. Some questions came up relative to sewer. I have gotten the answer from the property owner on that. It will be connected to sanitary sewer, which exists on the north property line of this property. Traffic impact, obviously, if you have a total of 4 units, you're going to have less impact than if you had general commercial uses. I don't know what one would be comparable to that, but
Right.
obviously you have a whole laundry list of commercial uses that could be done. And it was approved by the Port St. John Dependent District Board. That's pretty much all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McKnight, could you give us any clarity on why they said 210, then wanted you to go back to 17?
They want to see single family, I think, is the answer to that.
But they approved the 210.
Correct.
It's a little bizarre.
And then, okay, I'm going to be like Mr.
Mr.
Menaboo
Chair,
there.
so there was quite a few residents that that attended the meeting, and they're concerned with the introduction of the RU 210, which allows for duplexes and multifamily. So why they made the motion like that, I don't know. However, that was just a way to really recognize RU 17 is already existing out in the area.
Actually, okay.
Any other questions? I would also
Seeing
note,
that,
Questions, please.
bring it back to the board. Any questions?
Sir,
Mr. John?
very good. I saw your plans, disappointed. What are you doing for parking?
well, parking will be, each one of them will be required to have a driveway, just like you would at a single-family home, no different.
No garage, correct?
There's no plan for a garage right now.
Okay. I looked at the plans. I was a little concerned that they were very terrible. To put, these are for rental, I assume, these units?
Some will probably be sold eventually.
Okay, because the layouts were really poor. As an architect, I have an issue with.
I'm not an architect, so
I know
I'm not
you're
gonna
not.
disagree with
You're
you.
a land planner, aren't you? or
Yes.
something? Okay. It was poorly put together, and I'm afraid that if this goes forward, the quality of the design will make the quality of the facility really poor, which would affect the neighborhood. And I know this is a zoning hearing, and I shouldn't really make those remarks, but since I'm here, I feel like compelled to do so.
So noted.
I would hope that the owner would get another designer, because looking at it, it's just, I don't think it would fit in the neighborhood. They got a very, very high roof, 20 feet. It's disproportionate to the 8-foot lower level. The layout is very poor. Circulation in the units is poor. And how you're going to set that back for parking to get the driveways in there so you still have the frontage that you're supposed to have. The sewer, you said, was to the north, which is where the dollar store is.
Correct.
So is it on their property, or is it on the street on?
It actually is extended to the property line of this property.
Okay,
There must be an easement there. that it's been extended in.
Oh, okay, you're saying
Yeah, I
there's.
did verify that with the owner.
Oh, okay. So there's, all right. So they're not having to take anything away from the dollar store to get connection?
No.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
That's my comments.
I will pass those on.
All right.
Any other questions from the board? Do we have a motion?
You need public comment.
I thought I already did.
No, you didn't.
Anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? I guess I didn't. I'm sorry. And ma'am, could you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Jelaine Spears. I've lived at 971 Palm Street for 37 years, and I've seen this neighborhood go from a nice, quiet community to it's a racetrack now. People run their cars up and down the street all hours of the day. It used to be very quiet and calm. Now there's just constant traffic. I've seen 2 people hurt on the streets, Palm and Avon Street, because people they ignore the stop signs, they don't obey the speed limits. I've even seen the school buses every day race through the neighborhood, and the Brink security trucks, they definitely exceed the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. So now you're going to bring in possibly 16 more cars, multifamily folks with kids, and additional traffic. It's my contention that a traffic study should definitely be done in this area for this building to proceed. This is going to increase the traffic and the sewer problems and definitely affect our property values, especially if it's rental property. Most of the area there are some rentals, but most of the properties have become homeowners. A few years ago, I had a major sewage disaster happen in my home as I live on the corner of Palm and Manth. I live on it's the end run of the sewer system. And so that's where the sewage ends up. I had over $50,000 in damage because the county does not maintain the sewer system that we currently have properly. They do not have adequate employees to flush out the pumping stations on a regular basis, and that is only accomplished when the neighbors start calling the county and say, hey, my toilet's backing up, my toilet won't flush. When this incident occurred, the neighbors on either side of me also had damage, but not to the extent that mine did. Mine had the lowest point on the end run. I had sewage through my entire house. And I was told by the county supervisor at the time of all these things, of not maintaining the pumping stations, flushing the things, taking care of the system. And after that, a year after that, I also had the same problem occurred. Nothing's been done with the sewer system there. I was told that this is the oldest part of Port St. John. When it was designed, it was not meant for this many houses and people, and it's continued to grow with businesses, and now a multi-family home wants to go in there. Let's see. The pediatric doctor, the pediatric doctor is on Kings Highway, and the dollar store is also. O'Reilly's faces US 1. So on Avon Street, those are strictly residential homes. They are not businesses. I had to contact, back to the doctor. The pediatric doctor had multiple issues with their plumbing that occurred from too many people on an old sewer system. And I talked to the office manager, Kayla, there, and she said that they had 2 floods. Not from storms, but 2 floods from the sewer issue. I had to contact Rita, Pritchard, and Channel 6 News to get restitution for the horrible problem that occurred in my home from too many people on an old sewer system. There definitely needs to be a traffic survey, an EPA survey, and a sewer feasibility study before any further construction further exacerbates this small neighborhood. Manth Street, as all the other streets in our area, are two very narrow lane streets. Adding this multifamily homes or business will add additional stress on the road and the sewer system that's already inadequate for our needs. Having commercial trucks use the road that curves around these two lots to stock a store or whatever, or even the multifamily homes will put an undue burden on these residents on Manth and Avon Streets. It'll also add extra traffic to my area because they all run together. They're all very close. They stop at the stop sign and go down to Manth, or they go straight down my street. It is like the Indy 500. It's a drag racing area. I disagree with allowing the neighborhood to be further ruined with more commercial property, or even worse, multifamily homes. There are no multifamily homes in our area. Why do we have to start now in such a small lot? I pray that you guys will not approve the zoning change for Edita Realty. Please rethink the needs of the current residents over a real estate broker who's only worrying about increasing his personal wealth. He does have the right to sell, but not until further research and studies have been undone on changing this small, single-family neighborhood to multifamily or commercial. As I sit here and compose this letter, which took me about 30 minutes, I counted 50 cars have gone up and down the street. This was yesterday. And that doesn't include the motorcycles and the cars with the boom boxes that frequent the area, especially at dark, and drag race through the street. This morning, while I was redoing this, from 9:10 to 9:30, 28 cars, trucks with a boat, went through the neighborhood in 20 minutes. Do you realize what additional traffic you're going to put in this small neighborhood with what you guys want to approve to let them do? There was also a lady walking two children in a wagon. As I said, I've seen a child get run over on this street and a gentleman from too much traffic. We really do not need commercial or multifamily. I request that the zoning for this be denied for the commercial, and you stick with the RU17 or the RU19 for the single-family neighborhood like the rest of our neighborhood is. As I said, the businesses do not face the neighborhood. They face out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak for or against this item? Yes, ma'am, if you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is Julie Benson, and I live at 130 Manth Avenue, Cocoa, Florida. When we had the meeting at the Port St. John Library, they had said that they would do it for the RU10 and the RU7, so that if you guys did not approve the RU10, that he could go back and reapply for the RU7, because we didn't have a problem with the RU7. So he could reapply for the RU7, and in that respect, then he wouldn't have to go to the Port St. John meeting again, was how they explained it to us. I'm a senior citizen and have lived on Manth Avenue, a couple houses from where this rezoning request is being contemplated, for over 30 years. We live in the oldest section of Port St. John, and I'm sure in the comprehensive plan and the future land use for this area, there was never any plan for multifamily use. How do I know that? Because there is no multifamily residential use property in our area. It would have been in the initial plans if that was so contemplated. Zoning was originally RU17 and RU19 when it was changed to BU1 in 1993. There would have been many more residents here, but they're working. I just wanted to let you guys know that. I can confirm that the traffic on Manth has grown immensely since the speed bumps have been put in on the streets west of Manth, so more traffic comes through to take a shortcut to Publix. I have not noticed much more traffic since the Dollar General and O'Reilly's has been built. The EPA needs to be contacted before anything further is built in this area. There are already neighbors who have a sewer order emanating from the ditch out front of their home periodically. One neighbor, as she just advised you, had her home flooded with sewage. And I personally have issues when I turn the water on periodically, there's a sewer odor. We have small children who play in the street, people who walk their dogs, ride bikes, or push strollers in the street, elderly people who walk along or across the road, disabled adults who have to walk for exercise, to say nothing of the cars which travel the street, sometimes at an excessive rate of speed. If there is a duplex on each lot with approximately 1,300 square foot in each unit, how many parking spaces will be allotted for each unit? Potentially, there could be 4 for each unit. That's 16 vehicles on that corner. If there are not enough parking spaces available, I assume the tenants or owners will be parking on the roadway. And remember, this is on a curve, so that will be an accident waiting to happen. This wouldn't be a buffer between commercial and residential property. It would simply be 4 homes built on 2 lots instead of 1 home built on each lot. How much space will be left over for a yard for children to play in? And there's a retention pond right there as well. With these children, where will they play? In the street, on a curve? Yet another accident waiting to happen. We would not have a problem with keeping the current zoning, which is commercial, or having a single-family home built on each lot to comport with the RU17 and RU19 zoning in the immediate vicinity. We would much rather wait and see what, if any, commercial business would have come onto these 2 lots. We would expect there may be some additional traffic, but most of it would probably go out to Kings Highway rather than using Manth. And keep in mind that that traffic would be during business hours rather than 24 hours a day, potentially. We have all worked extremely hard throughout our lives to provide for our families to the best of our ability and to try and get a little ahead. Allowing this rezoning will no doubt affect all of our property values in a negative way, as well as change the character and integrity of our neighborhood. Granting this rezoning would significantly diminish the enjoyment, safety, and quality of life in this old Port St. John neighborhood. The zoning here is RU17 and RU19, single-family residential. There has never been multifamily use in our community. We don't want multifamily use in our community, and request that you deny this rezoning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak for or against this item? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Is that City of Cocoa water?
Yep.
Mm-mm.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
What's the dividing line up there? Kings Highway?
Does it come that far down?
I think it goes to Port St. Joe Sewer.
Kings Highway is north of that.
Which has the worst discharge.
Sir, if you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is
In the
Mike
river.
Dillon. I live at 191 Manth Avenue.
Okay.
I am totally against the proposal it is presenting. We have a very nice house. We saved all of our lives. We came to Florida and we expected to live out our life where we are comfortably. We didn't want people trying to take advantage and come in and build tiny houses where his whole proposal will fit under my roof. This isn't right. You all wouldn't allow it in your neighborhoods. Please do the right thing. We don't want increased vandalism. I don't want to have to guard my.
You're good, go.
I don't want to have to guard my mailbox, my gas caps on my car or my boat. This is a terrible idea.
Okay.
Please, don't let that happen.
All right.
Please.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else want to speak for or against this item? Mr. McKnight, could you come back to the podium, please, sir?
The only comments I have are that the comprehensive plan allows for this use. Doesn't mean that it has to be given, but it does allow for the use. The intent of my client was to remove the commercial and put something in that was transitory between what is now single family and what is clearly commercial. Just because that you have 2 duplexes doesn't increase vandalism. I think the car count, when considered against commercial, would be significantly less, depending on what was built there. And none of us know what that would be if it went commercial. Comments that were given about design and garages and carports will be noted, passed on to the client, and will be considered. And as we have noted, this property is served by sewer, and it can only be connected if there's capacity. And that's up to the county to consider that.
Right.
This is simply a land use request. And the proposal for the size of these units far exceeds the 700 or 900. I know houses in that area are built with more than that, but those are the minimums, is 700, 900. These were proposed at roughly 1,300 per site. That's the only comments I have unless there are other questions.
Hearing that, I bring it back to the board. Any questions for Mr.
Yeah, I had a
McKnight?
question for Mr. McKnight. So, you know, being a land planner, in your opinion, this is a downzoning, correct?
Correct.
So 4 units for typical commercial uses, it already is commercial, correct? It's commercial now.
Correct. It's on BU1 today.
And as far as you know, in your experience, commercial generates more traffic than
Correct.
residential.
I think any traffic engineer will tell you that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. John?
Yes. You heard the 2 women speak about the sewage problem that they have in the neighborhood. If you're running sewer line from the north, is there any way that could affect their sewer system? I mean, could they connect up to yours and have a better system than what they currently have? I'm asking, I know you're not
I don't really know the answer to that. You have an engineer obviously here, but we would just be connecting into the nearest point that was available for connection. I don't know that it would have anything. I don't even know how their line runs, okay? I'm assuming it's a front, on their front side that they connect into, but I don't know that for a fact. We'd have to look into it from the standpoint of where the connections are actually at.
This is a gravity sewer system you're talking about connecting to, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so gravity goes until it gets to a lift station.
Right.
The lift station's maintained by Brevard County. That lift station probably serves thousands of residents, and if they're not maintaining it, that's on
And I'm not
Brevard
even
County
sure
utilities.
which way theirs runs versus
Yeah.
which way this one
Right.
would run. But I do know it's on the north, and it runs from the north to the north property line to Kings Highway.
So it runs toward the west.
The west and north first.
No, I just thought maybe you could solve their problem.
Well,
Understandably, that would be something that would be great if we could.
that leads me to another question, Mr. McKnight. There are some commercial uses that would generate exponentially more sewer and water needs than 4 residential units, correct?
Yes.
Thank
Within BU1, it's a
could be-
long list.
Yeah. a lot
Some
of
that
them.
can reasonably be constructed
Less.
there, and some that would not.
Right.
Obviously, it's just
Understand.
not big
Thank
enough
you.
property.
It's kind of a unique property because it is BU1.
Yeah.
So you don't have multifamily in there, but the proposal is less intense than what could go there.
Yeah, and
Yes.
if you look in a lot of the areas of the county too, multifamily is a pretty typical buffer between single-family and commercial.
Yeah.
It's like a transition, what they call transitional zoning. So it's not unusual and definitely not unique. It's actually fairly typical.
Don't leave us yet, Mr. McKnight, come on.
I don't
We're
remember the
getting
last
closer.
time we even saw a proposal for duplexes, though, other than like Vieira building those in the PUD.
Right.
But it's been a minute. And I know like City of Starlight Beach and areas where you see them, beachside communities, they're no longer allowing it in the Atlantic.
Well, but they're everywhere on the beach side.
They are,
Been
but they're
that
not
way for
allowing them
many,
anymore.
Many years, where you have
Yeah.
commercial on A1A, duplexes, and then single family. It's pretty standard.
Well, I like the downzoning part.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I understand all the comments that were made. I don't necessarily
Yes.
agree with a lot of them because I think this is a reduction in traffic, a reduction in infrastructure impact, so I'm going to recommend approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Bruce,
Second.
a second by Ron. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Okay, so
Well, it could be a Wawa.
meeting is adjourned.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.